So my name's Eddy. I'm a triathlete. Long distance Ironman is my sort of preferred event. I've been competing in sport for 20 years, in triathlon for almost that length of time. I'm director of communities at Mounts Bay, and like I said, in my pastime, I train for long distance triathlon.
Congratulations on Kona.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I said before, was it like an old friend, or was it a new relationship that you'd have to re-establish with someone?
It does feel a bit of a re-establish, so because they split the men's and women's races now. So normally the event's every year, but the men go there every other year, and the women are the years in between that. So I was there 2 years ago. I think I said in the last video I sort of wanted to go back because last time I was really sick and just about managed to get onto the start line the day of the race. So this time was a bit of redemption, and I wanted to go back and really prove to myself that I could still perform there. You know, a few years on. My last big performance there was 2019, and then obviously the race had a few years off. So then since then I managed to race there 2022. So this is the next chance I had to do that since 2019. You know, getting sick in 2022 and then going back to 2024. So it was almost 5 years ago since I was last on the podium there.
Right. And how do you feel about your performance?
It was, I was massively elated at the finish. The race, it just pushes you like nowhere else. So it's really hard to describe to people what it's like to race in that climate. Everyone's raced in hot climates or been on hot holidays, but to just race in that humidity and to that level of competition is probably the deepest field of competition that I've competed in. I think potentially that the age group I was competing in was just absolutely stacked with talent and people that to finish in second place, you know, I was massively elated, and to see the family on the finish line, which I've never had that experience before, to see my little baby and my wife, and they were over the finish line and managed to get in the finishing area, which was, you know, one of the nicest feelings I think I've ever had. But at the same time, you know, it was short-lived for 5 minutes, whilst I then said to her, my face is tingling, my hands are tingling, I need to go to the medical tent, I need to go lie down for a bit, I'll see you in a bit, I'm okay. But yeah, it was amazing, and to pull out that performance, and it's one of those races where if something's slightly off, all of a sudden the performance is way off. Unlike other climates, you can kind of manage to get through, but if like say, if you're slightly off that percentage, then things can snowball really quickly, and you have to manage things really, really well. And that's the nutrition side of things, which people don't often talk about in racing. Yeah,
I can see that, you know, from just looking at the climate, the course, and the field, it's never going to take any prisoners. It's just going to take you out if you're not on it. And yeah, so from, you know, your performance point of view, I should say you must be absolutely delighted.
It was almost the perfect day, and you know, I think long distance triathletes maybe never get that perfect race day that you'd ever have. There's always going to be something, you know. Speaking to multiple world champion a few years ago, and he was saying, you know, there's a point when he was, you know, massively in the lead where he's still having massive low points, and that showed this year in the race where the professionals in the field, you know, going from like 1st to 18th within, you know, 5 or 10 miles on the run. So it can easily happen at our level, and the way I was feeling halfway through the run to get that performance, if someone said to me at 12 miles, you can take second place, I'd be like, I'll bite your hand off, I'll take that now. It's only afterwards when you reflect, just going, I was so close, you know, I was in the lead at that point, you know, and just before I was shortly overtaken on the run. But yeah, it was an amazing feeling, and then you reflect on that race and what goes into it, and the sacrifice the family and I've made over the last 6 months, 12 months to get to that start line. It's almost a relief in the same time that you've got a performance that you knew you were capable of.
What was going through your mind during key moments of the race?
I actually felt amazing for 90% of the day, which doesn't often happen. You know, you normally sort of find it. So we had the swim element, you know, which is normally my strength. So I just wanted to get out in front. There was a couple of races that go off in front of you, like the wave of swim. So there was the disability field that went off in, like sort of 10 minutes in front of us. So we had to sort of navigate through them, and a younger age group where we had to swim through. So it was just trying to say in the swim, just was almost staying focused through each element. So I'm just trying to stay at the front of the swim. I was sort of 3rd, 4th place in the swim, just trying to stay with those guys. After about a K on the swim, I was like, oh, my neck's really stinging. I'm rubbing, like the new suit's obviously rubbing on my neck. You know, we've still got some scars there now, and the next day was massive. And my wife was like, you've had a jellyfish sting like the others. I was like, no, I know what jellyfish sting feels like, I think. And then when someone else said it to me on the plane, I was like, oh yeah, maybe they're right, because it was right around my neck. So I think K into the swim, I think I got stung by a jellyfish, and maybe it was there for a bit, but I just kind of ignored it and just carried on. And then the bike, which is normally, I'm not a weak cyclist, but it's my weaker discipline maybe compared to others. You know, I make more time up on the swim and run, but I'm still a strong cyclist, and I just stayed at the front of the race. And I've never felt so good getting off the back of 112 mile bike. I'm normally, 80, 90 miles in, I just want to get on the run. This is, one, you're feeling a bit bored in a way, because it's a long way, and you just want to get it done. And then another, you may be feeling that fatigue and that performance sort of dropping off at the back end of the bike. But this time I felt super strong. I've done a lot of work on the cycle element this year. And the work I've done in the few weeks leading up to that race meant I was able to stay near the front. And then we get off the bike, it's kind of just managing the conditions as well. So for all of that, you're just constantly doing a lot of admin. So out the swim, you're sort of bottle of water, cool yourself down. On the bike, you've got your nutrition, you've got how many carbs you're doing, you've really planned everything out. I've got at the aid station at Harvey, which is just over halfway, where you're allowed to bag drop in the morning. I had a frozen bottle of hydration system, got that on the bike, and it was still ice cold, which was amazing. All those things, and then every 10 miles you've got an aid station, so you're like, right, I need a bottle in there, then I need to grab the next bottle, I need to cool myself down, I need to cool my head, and everyone's going through that process. Yeah. So you're just constantly thinking, so there isn't really time, I guess, to kind of be off it in a race like that. At that level in the World Championships, you've got to be fully planned and constantly thinking of what you're going to do next, rather than reacting to something that you maybe haven't done. And then you get onto the run. Again, I felt great, and I just started the run, and I just thought, I need to slow myself down. It's a long way to go. I'm feeling brilliant. I ran into the lead, overtook a friend of mine, and I was just like, this is the day. This is the day I'm going to have swim, bike, run, and it's going to be perfect. And then I had a bit of a low point between 10 and 15 miles where I don't know, maybe the heat, the energy that I've consumed, or what I think maybe happened is I'm a really high salty sweater. So if I'm losing a couple of litres an hour, you can't replace that, but also I lose a lot of sodium in that sweat as well. So I think I take on a lot of water and not enough sodium. And when I then managed that on the course, I managed to get back running to a fairly decent pace to what I was running before. And then when I was going through the most difficult part of the course, which is famous, called the Energy Lab, which is 50-degree tarmac bouncing heat up at you whilst you're already hot, and you're 16, 18 miles into a run that's kind of thrown everything at you all day anyway. I actually felt pretty good there and managed to just bring it home, and at that point it was that I knew that I was pretty secure in just holding on to my second place and not worrying about chasing first, because that was, could all go wrong if I started doing that. And then, yeah, like I said earlier, getting to that finishing line and seeing the family, and you kind of, I think someone described it as, you're going to war with your body, and everyone is on that course, and it's just the journey that you take that day to get to the finishing line. And when you're seeing top pros that are walking and sticking their heads in ice buckets and things, thinking, I've not done a bad job,
Did you have, and we maybe touched on this briefly with the jellyfish sting, or suspected jellyfish sting, but were there any unexpected challenges? And if there was, how did you handle those?
I did have one, just got to be a bit PC with how I say this. So there's a bit of controversy with things that happen at the race, which never happened at our sport before, where there's a bit of unsportsmanship before the race, and there's a few reports where a couple of guys had their tyres let down in transition, and someone's seat post was really dangerous, was loosened. Luckily noticed before the race started, because you rack all your bikes and your bags the night before, you get there the next day and you just do the last minute tweaks. Luckily a friend of mine pulled his out and realised that he had some issues, which then made me reflect, going, well, hang on a minute, I went to my run bag and I had my gels and all in a little race belt with pockets, but they weren't in there. So I kind of was like, that's probably why I struggled a little bit on the run as well. I managed to find a couple at the bottom of the bag, but the others weren't there. So I was kind of managing myself on nutrition on the run. So that was an obstacle I had to overcome, and maybe that might have contributed to the low point between 10 and 15 miles. It still might have happened anyway. I'm never going to know that, but it definitely didn't help. But I was in such a zone that day that I didn't let it affect me, but I did lose a bit of time in transition when I was, trying to search for them, grab the gels, and then they dropped on the floor, and then I was trying to pick them back up and all, whereas before that everything was perfectly laid out. Yeah. So when you're on a good day, you kind of have to just put those things to the side and just crack on, and
how does the result compare to what you expected going into the race?
My expectations of my own performance is if I perform to my best and I'm beaten, I'm not necessarily happy with that, but that's all I can do. So I am happy as long as I know I've performed to my best of my abilities, and I knew that my best race and everything is competitive, and I just wanted to make sure that I was competitive on that day. And with change of dynamics this year, having a young family, and there's other people on the start line with the same, that actually you're just trying to get every little bit of the performance out of you. Whereas before, your whole life was dedicated to that race in 2019. That was all I focused on for 6 months in that year. Whereas now I've got other focuses alongside that, and it was just making sure that I could get a good performance out of myself, or the best performance out of myself, which I think I managed to do.
What aspects of your training did you feel paid off most in this year's event?
I think the preparation going into this race, the key thing is the heat training. And I'm very lucky to have support of a sponsor, Precision Fuel and Hydration, and they have a lot of work to do around, and that's one of the massive differences I've made over the last 4 or 5 years and helped me in 2019, is knowing the nutritional side of it that I need to really work on. So before it was kind of like you maybe get away with races because you've done enough, but this time you're really planning out that nutrition, that hydration, that fueling, all those things, that it is planned out exactly what I need for the amount of time that I'm racing. So preparing for that and practicing your nutrition at the weekends, doing sauna work, putting extra clothing on for runs and indoor cycling, and then we had a week in Texas beforehand in the woodlands where you're acclimatising then to the humidity of things, where, week before the race, one day I was like horrendous day on the run, didn't take on enough, thought I took on enough, and then you're halfway around the run going, oh my God, next week's going to be a killer. But then you kind of learn from that, and then 2 days later I get for a run in that conditions, and I'm like, I feel good at this. So it was that prep close to the race, but that prep, several months out, and doing the heat prep work leading into the race is probably the key thing.
Were there any adjustments that you made mid-event that helped?
Yeah, and I think it's reacting. So we are racing, so you are, although you're trying to go from the start of the race to the end of the race, and it's who slows down the least by the end of the race wins, basically. And it's a war of attrition of the body and whose body can last till that finishing line. So it's kind of just constantly trying to manage your body and reacting to it. Now, my warning signs when things aren't going right are kind of the same. So if I need energy, or I need hydration, or I'm overheating, like I have the same feeling. So I need to kind of work out, what did I have last, what do I need now, to try and work out what it is. Whereas some people, if they lost a lot of electrolytes and things, that they might cramp and things, and then they know what that is, whereas mine is literally the same. So I would just feel lightheaded, a bit weak and everything. So I kind of just have to manage that. And that's the point I got to at 10 to 15 miles on the run, where I was feeling lightheaded, loose, my pace was slowing down, my body's telling me I need to slow down. So it's getting to that next aid station thinking I need to take some sodium tablets, I need to get some Coca-Cola in me to have some quick energy, and because I didn't have enough gels on me, and kind of just reacting to what the body wants and what the body needs, and then just kind of just try not to worry about anything else at the time.
How do you plan to celebrate or reflect on your performance?
It's time to celebrate at the time, at the finish, with the family. That was kind of the key moment for me. Or, one of them said to my wife that I I'll see you in a minute. It was an hour and a half later after I managed to eventually walk out of the medical tent because I was in a bad way. And I definitely wasn't the worst in the medical tent, and a friend of mine was certainly in worse shape than I was. But and then seeing them afterwards, and you're so physically drained and mentally drained of that concentration and everything you've been doing in the lead up to the race, you know. And people say the energy in the race week as well, you know, there's so much going on that you just need to try and keep yourself calm and composed because you don't want to waste too much energy. And 2-3 days out from the race, I was really quite anxious one morning. I almost felt emotional the morning I got up, and then the day or two before the race I kind of was okay again. It was just that one day, that was the moment I was like, well, I need to just calm things back down, and having the family around you helps. So so celebrating with them over the finish line, you're almost emotional because everything's built up and your body, you're so physically drained, you could probably just fall asleep standing upright, you know, at the time. And the awards evening they have the next day, and like we said, the famous thing about Hawaii is getting a meki bowl, which is a wooden bowl which is sacred to the culture of Hawaii, which to get another one of those really meant a lot. And being up on the podium with friends you raced with for years, and a Spanish guy I know and a German guy I know that we've raced each other over the years is really quite something special. I think we probably need to celebrate as a family a little bit now I'm home, but I haven't managed to get around to that quite yet. But often you reflect at the race, like that's all I could give at the time, you know, and because I'm such a competitor afterwards, I can't help but think, and I still think about it every day, like what if that was slightly different on the run? What, you know, because I still think that I didn't run to the performance and the training that I've done. I managed to do a very good run, but you know, I was hoping that, and I still look back going, I know I was in shape to still maybe etch out a little bit more. So then that niggles at you, but you're like, you couldn't do anything more at the time. Yeah. You know, so I do need to celebrate those successes a bit more, and maybe I'm sometimes a little bit more harsh on my performance as the days go away from the race compared to closer to the time.
What did you learn from this experience that you'll take into the next event? Now I know you said this was your last Kona. Is it your last Kona? Have you itched the strap?
Do you know what, I was very, it did feel a bit different on the day when I was racing and reflecting, and how at times when you're thinking about it, I was really comfortable with the fact that this is the last time I do it. You know, my family needs to come first, and there's so much sacrifice that go in with that, you know, whether that's not being home in the early mornings when I'm out training and all these sort of things, and maybe missing a few key moments that I need to be there to be with them. But being an athlete and performing and everything is always going to be there. It's just how I direct that energy and what I do. You know, Now I'm not saying I'm not going to race triathlons next season. You know, that's not the case. I still love performance and love performing at that maximum level. It's just whether I can sacrifice that much time to do a performance like that at an event. Yeah. And maybe I won't train, you know, to that level for a long time. There's nothing saying years to come I might not come back to that if the family situation and the time that I have on my, the time that I have to be able to do that. But at the moment, you know, I'm going to have to be more time efficient with my training, and I'm still going to train hard. I'm still going to train, and hopefully I'll still get some epic performances out of that.
So you've scratched the itch for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the biggest itch was, like I said, last time was going to be my last time.
Yeah.
I can't keep saying that. Last time was the last time until I got sick 2 days before the race, you know, and was in bed and couldn't move, and then somehow miraculously managed to get to the finishing line, which is still probably one of the greatest achievements I managed to do with the condition I was in. So now it's like, what other little goals can I do along the way? You know, like anyone, like I said in the last videos, everyone needs those little targets to get them out of bed in the morning to train and different things. Now, I just love being fit and healthy and always will, so I'll always be at that level, I think.
Okay. Who or what was your biggest source of motivation during the competition? Is there, you know, and I know what you'll say, you know, family-wise, I think from the fact that they were there, you know, there's got to be some points where you have to like dig deep, go really dark with it, and your family being there and whatever probably for me, that would be what would push me to go for it.
Yeah, I think through those dark moments, and it's almost easier in this sport to understand that sense of it, because you do go through those moments, and with such an endurance event, you know, if there's an 800 metre runner or someone else, they're never going to get to that point because the event's so short. But with this event, there's so many thoughts that goes through your head. You know, you're racing for 8.5 hours, so there's so much that goes on, and it's really hard to kind of remember everything that's there. And as positive I am, and like other athletes are, there's still going to be those moments of self-doubt that why are you doing this? Why does that happen? You know, why do I feel like this on the run? Why am I back doing this race? This is ridiculous. Said last time I'm not going to do this again. This is feeling horrendous. How do I now manage myself to get around the next 14 miles of the run after racing for, 7 hours or whatever it is? So you always have those thoughts, and you just have to kind of take a little bit at a time. Say, I just need to get to that next aid station. I just need to get on a bit more fluids. I just need to put some ice down my back. I just need to get some ice in the scarf I've got and put that on. I just need to do this at the next aid station. You kind of just take those little moments at a time. If I thought you've got to run for the next hour and a half feeling horrendous, then you kind of just, I don't know, your body might give up, you might give up. So it's just kind of take those little steps towards that next bit, and just almost hoping that you can come out of that.
Yeah.
And maybe there's an element that you look back at your performance going, actually, once I got through that bad stage, could I have kicked on a little bit more, And you look at your stats and your pace and things, well, could I have edged out a bit more, without collapsing over the line and feeling in a totally horrendous way. But yeah, it's just managing it. And you get to an aid station and you're kind of like, right, this aid station, I've got a bottle in this hand that's down my suit, but I need to fill that up with some ice cold water. So then in between aid stations, I'm squirting myself to cool off so I don't overheat and the core body temperature doesn't get up, and all those side of things. And then the next one, I need to get ice, water, fluids, hydration, energy, Coke, next one, So it's just constantly managing those things and thinking about those things to break things down and kind of almost distract the mind a little bit as well, or looking forward to something. I had a ice cold flask that was a hydro flask in the energy lab, and somehow at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, after dropping it off in the morning when I ran through there, it was still cold because I'd iced it up. So running out of the hottest part of the run course with that was almost like something to look forward to. Sounds insane now, but yeah, it was like liquid gold at the time. Yeah. But yeah, you just got to break things down and just take it step by step. And that doesn't matter if you're doing an Ironman that long, or whether you're doing your first 5k run or 10k run, or you're doing a park run for the first time. If you're only used to running down the road, next time try and run a bit further. There's all those things you just need to kind of distract the mind a little bit and just say to yourself that I can do this, I can get that a little bit further. Just need to just push myself now, and this is it. I'd always say to people that they need to set realistic goals and targets and little targets along the way. So whether it's completing their first Ironman or their first ever triathlon, and it might be where they want to go in the next 3, 4, 5 years, and having that end goal, and then just making little goals along the way that will help them achieve their end goal, but not comparing themselves to other people. And a lot of people do that all the time, compare themselves to what other people's performances are like, or I want to be like that when I get to that level. And I can remember doing one of my first big races, 10, 15, 20 years ago. If someone said to me, you'd race at that level, at that time, I would go, I'll bite your hand off. I'd love to be able to that level. But then when you get to that level, you then want to go to the next level. And it's a case of just staircasing that performance. So if they're looking to perform to a high standard, it's just what they need to do to get there, and what improvements, is it the swim, is it the bike, where can they make the biggest gains to start with? But most of all, just enjoy it and enjoy the process. So, the reason why I've done this for many years is because I enjoy training, I enjoy the people that I train with, and it's just kind of having that network and those people around you. Join some local clubs. So if you're a triathlete, go to the run club as well and run with some people from the running club, do some running races and do other things along the way that help improve your performance, but also that level of enjoyment, and try and make it so the people around you and your friends are kind of on the journey with you, and just get them involved.
Neil, once again, congratulations. It's been a pleasure documenting your journey through this to get to the finish line in Kona. I wish you all the best for the future, and I expect we will meet again
Yeah, hopefully with another medal around my neck.